12 hours after the finale of Stranger Things aired, I tried uploading this video, but it got blocked because I'd used actual footage from the finale. So I basically did this and uploaded a mutilated version, but now enough time seems to have passed for Netflix to loosen its copyright clause, and I can give you the beauty with all limbs still attached.
Still need it. Fart face.
Here's the strange thing about Stranger Things. The bigger the danger, the safer everyone feels.
Oh my god!
Ugh. Dear film gods, save us from plot armor. Watching the final season of Stranger Things, I felt that familiar tightening in the chest that precedes a rant. Not fear, not suspense, but recognition. The recognition that the show had once again arrived at the velvet rope of mortality, only to usher its favourite characters past the bouncers with a knowing wink. Plot armour had descended, glossy and impenetrable, and with it the peculiar sensation that nothing truly bad could happen here. Danger was being mimeographed rather than endured. Plot armour isn't simply the fact that protagonists survive. That'd be a childish objection, and fiction would collapse overnight if survival itself were a sin. The problem isn't that characters live, but that the narrative rearranges reality so that they can't plausibly die.
If we hurt ourselves, we're really screwed.
The world bends, probabilities become decorative, consequences soften into bruises that heal by the next scene. What should feel like risk instead feels like a contractual obligation between writer and audience. We pretend to worry, they pretend to threaten. In early Stranger Things, this contract hadn't yet been signed. The danger felt genuinely local, almost intimate. Kids disappeared, adults failed. The Upside Down wasn't a theme park, but an intrusion, an infection. As the seasons piled up, however, the cast ballooned and the stakes inflated, and something quietly inverted. The more apocalyptic the danger became, the less dangerous it felt. When everyone's constantly inches from annihilation, annihilation becomes background noise. The show didn't lose its affection for its characters. It lost its willingness to betray them.
Yeah. This is crazy. Over.
This is hardly a Stranger Things problem alone. Contemporary franchise storytelling is addicted to a peculiar paradox: maximal peril with minimal loss. Characters are flung through explosions, stabbed, possessed, crushed, shot, and psychologically shredded, yet they persist with the durability of branded crockery. The narrative voice insists that everything has changed, while carefully ensuring that nothing essential has. It's Catastrophe cosplay. Compare this with the shockwaves that once followed genuinely unarmored deaths in Game of Thrones. The early seasons were electric, not because they were especially brutal, but because they were credibly unfair.
Bring me his head!
Status didn't guarantee survival. Moral decency was no shield. When death arrived, it arrived sideways, without orchestral warning, and it reconfigured the story rather than pausing it for grief before business resumed. The trouble, of course, is that this very success taught the wrong lesson. Death became a selling point, a gimmick, and eventually even Game of Thrones succumbed to a different sort of armor. Not that characters couldn't die, but that their deaths were increasingly instrumental, scheduled, narratively hygienic. Superhero fiction perfected this maneuver years ago. In the sprawling cosmos of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, death is less an endpoint than a sabbatical. Characters die to demonstrate emotional seriousness, then return once seriousness has been sufficiently demonstrated. The armor here isn't just plot-based, but metaphysical. Time travel, multiverses, resurrections, and narrative resets ensure that no loss need ever be final. The universe itself becomes complicit in protecting its assets. The result's a strange emotional inflation. Everything's epic and nothing sticks.
This is absurd.
What makes plot armor so corrosive isn't simply that it reduces suspense, but that it undermines meaning. Risk isn't an aesthetic garnish, it's the condition under which choices matter. When we know, deep down, that the story will contort itself to preserve its emotional furniture, we stop reading characters as agents and start reading them as inventory. Injuries become symbolic, sacrifices become provisional. Even bravery loses its edge when survival is preordained. There's also a subtler ethical cost. Stories saturated with plot armor train us to expect outcomes without payment. They offer moral reassurance without moral loss. In a culture already inclined towards consequence-free outrage and performative seriousness, this isn't nothing. Tragedy properly understood isn't about shock or nihilism, it's about the recognition that some goods can't be saved together. Plot armor abolishes this recognition. It insists, again and again, that with enough sincerity, teamwork, or rousing music, everything important can be preserved. The irony is that audiences are more resilient than these stories assume. We can tolerate loss, we can even crave it, not voyeuristically, but because loss acknowledges reality. Fiction doesn't need to mirror the world's cruelty, but it does need to respect the world's structure. Gravity should still pull, fire should still burn, bullets should still behave like bullets. When a story refuses to honor these constraints, it doesn't become kinder, it becomes weightless. And when a story introduces or reintroduces an additional character just so that it can have someone to kill off with minimum narrative impact, it doesn't become more moving. It becomes
So stupid, so stupid, so stupid.
Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the ending of Stranger Things.
You're fucked with the wrong family.
More than the overcrowded setup for that ending, and certainly a lot more than the ending of certain other shows. I liked the bittersweet note, and I even liked the decision to leave Elle's ending open to interpretation. What I can't shake is the suspicion that if she didn't get a happy ending, the show only made its central flaw worse. Improbably protecting every central character for 5 seasons, only to offer up the protagonist in a final, supposedly necessary sacrifice, feels less tragic than forced. I prefer to think, along with the rest of the gang, that Elle was too intelligent to buy into that logic. But interpretation aside,
Where did she go?
the same culprit keeps flashing its badge. That plot armor. Ugh. So my complaint with the final season of Stranger Things is, in essence, that I wanted the story to mean what it was saying. If the abyss is truly opening, then let it take something with it, instead of the main character nobly but stupidly choosing to disappear with it. Possibly.
Once the mage escaped, his sister cast one final spell.
If the danger's existential, then let it rearrange existence. Otherwise, the Upside Down's just another backdrop, and that fucking franchise-safe narrative bubble wrap plot armor, no matter how lovingly fitted, gleams a little too brightly to ignore. If you liked this and subscribed, then you might also want to subscribe to my Substack at desimplify.substack.com. See you there.